Live. I think we're live, and we're live. It is time to react to week 2 around the National Football League. It is the Audible week 2 recap here with Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom, and a crazy day of football, including the 49ers dropping 41 points on the Bengals, 41-17, the final score as the 49ers. Well, they're rolling, and Bloom, they're doing it with Jimmy Garoppolo. 297 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT for Garoppolo. Deebo Samuel, 5 for 87 and a touch. He's so fun to watch. Marquis Goodwin, 3 for 77 and a touch. Raheem Mostert as a receiver, 3 for 68 and a touch, and then 13 for 83. And then Matt Breida leads the way on the ground with 12 for 121 as a rusher, 1 for 11 as a receiver. Jeff Wilson Jr. just activated and gets 2 rushing touchdowns today. I know a lot of fantasy gyms are, and George Kittle fantasy gyms are like, only 3 for 54? Well, 41 points. You think George Kittle to get a little bit more than 3 for 54, but that's what you're going to get. And the 49ers are going to get the win.
Yeah, this game, again, we're always recontextualizing week 1. So San Francisco's offense didn't look great against Tampa, but now we can see, hey, Todd Bowles can call a good game. And Cincinnati, Seattle didn't exactly go up and down the field on them. San Francisco did, and Jimmy Garoppolo writes himself, the season is like a 15-round fight, 16 rounds, right? And it's like he got knocked a little silly in week 1 as far as his hold on the job, but he grabbed it back. Obviously, we're targeting that Cincinnati defense. Next week Buffalo gets them. All 3 running backs. So really we had like the number 1 running back, team running back wise, was San Francisco, enough that all 3, Breida, Mostert, Wilson, because he had the goal line roll, they were all relevant. Deebo Samuel, one of the best rookies of the day. Marquis Goodwin reels in a deep touchdown here to get things going. And like you said, Kittle, we didn't do much. He'll be okay. If the offense is putting up 41 points, he'll be okay. And guess who the San Francisco 49ers face next? Cecil, our Pittsburgh Steelers.
More on that later. Andy Dalton, 26 of 42, 311 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Tyler Boyd gets 10 for 122. Good. John Ross maintains the value. If you went ahead and, I wouldn't say took a chance on him again, but liked what you saw week 1, you put him in your lineup again. He responded with 4 for 112 and a touchdown. Tyler Eifert, 3 for 9 and a touchdown there. Joe Mixon, 11 for 17. Comes into this game a little bit banged up, 3 for 10 as a receiver. So not much on the ground. 300 yards passing again for Andy Dalton, another, over 300 a day, not 400 this week. And some assets you smiled at, even though there's only 17 points here.
Yeah, this offense against Seattle was so pass happy. We're thinking, okay, this could be good. Maybe San Francisco's defense isn't for real. It's just Tampa. But no, San Francisco's defense is better. It was really a backdoor cover if you played Dalton or Ross, 66-yard catch and run touchdown late in the game. Joe Mixon, it's shades of 2017. There's just no room for him to run, and he's not that sudden out of the blocks. He's not Saquon Barkley. He's not going to be able to overcome that kind of situation, even though situations at the end of the year last year wasn't great. Eifert got a lot more targets than Uzoma. Still, Eifert looks like someone who's not going to add value to his targets, but he is getting the targets. Again, Cincinnati's going to Buffalo, undefeated Buffalo. I can't wait to talk about that, Cease. This is going to be a fun offense and a defense that is easy to exploit. So sometimes this team's going to create some fun fantasy games. Not a fun season for Bengals fans.
Not a fun season at all. Chargers fans, well, the Lions now gotcha. Lions undefeated. Of course, they have the tie, but 13-10, the final score. They beat the Chargers. And the Lions, of course, at home. Phillip Rivers goes 21-36, 293. No touchdowns, 1 INT. Keenan Allen, 8 for 98. Mike Williams, 3 for 83. He was banged up going into this game. Plays and comes through there. We know with Hunter Henry banged up. That means just more Austin Eckler as a receiver, 6 for 67. As a runner, 7 for 66 and a touchdown. Also that very costly fumble that was lost right at the goal lines. Could have been more. Justin Jackson was 7 for 59. 1 for 5 as a receiver. And well, this is what the Chargers get when they go on the road, and it's not much.
It's Groundhog Day. The Chargers just find ways to lose. And this was another one of those. That drive with 2 touchdowns called back and then fumbling at the goal line, the missed field goals, the sense as the game went on with the missed field goals, they don't trust their kicker. That's never a good feeling when you're in a close game down the stretch. You did have, again, the Justin Jackson. He had another long run called back in addition to the one he had. Austin Eckler is going to be a top 5 fantasy running back as long as Melvin Gordon is out. And obviously we have to rethink his role when Gordon comes back. He looks so good. Rivers is going to continue to be a middling fantasy quarterback with Mike Williams playing and making a few plays, and you hope he trends to be more healthy, play on more drives, snaps, especially in the red zone. But still, this offense, especially with the offensive line problems, it's not going to be an overachieving offense. So I don't know how to feel about this team. They won a game, they could have lost. They lost a game, they could have won, and they face another team, Cease, through 2 weeks. I don't understand. The Houston Texans next week.
Right. Melvin Gordon's like, I think I can come back. Maybe I can't come back. Maybe I can. When Eckler fumbles at the goal line. Yeah. Matthew Stafford, 245, 2 up and 2 down. Kerryon Johnson, 12 for 41 on the ground. And then as a receiver, 2 for 47 and a receiving touchdown. Nice note there for Kenny Golladay, 8 for 117 and a receiving touchdown. Marvin Jones Jr., 5 for 43. Not much from the tight ends, including TJ Hawkinson, 1 for 7. So you trusted him in week 2, and that trust was not rewarded. Also, just watch the Ty Johnson situation there in the backfield. Interesting to note. And let's talk about these Lions.
It doesn't have to be pretty, it's a W. Really, you had Kerryon Johnson, who had his badassery on display on his 36-yard catch and run touchdown, and he had another reception where he made 3 guys miss before he got tackled, but didn't really get going in the running game. You mentioned Ty Johnson. He had a drive that he looked pretty good. That maybe affects CJ Anderson a little more than Kerryon Johnson, but it solidifies their ability to just not feed Kerryon Johnson, which doesn't make sense to me. Stafford kind of playing his pitch and catch game with Golladay the way he did with Calvin Johnson. Galladay's not Calvin Johnson. Stafford's giving him chances to make plays. Sometimes it results in like a great Casey Hayward interception where Golladay was resorting to OPI to try to break up the chance for an interception. And sometimes it works out, and Golladay really came through. Marvin Jones didn't have a big game, but had a key 4th and 1 on the game-winning touchdown drive. The real headline here for fantasy is TJ Hawkinson. It was Arizona. So we're going to keep revising things like this. We know when we talk about Arizona today, what Mark Andrews did. So TJ Hawkinson is going to, we can see the first 2 weeks, he can maybe barely contribute to your lineup. He may put you over the top in a week. Next week, Detroit plays Philadelphia. So you're 1-0-1. You play in Philadelphia, a team that's reeling as we speak right now. Cease. No one's perfect. There are a lot of worse teams you would be rooting for right now than the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, that is true. So here we go to our next contest in an NFC North tilt. It's Vikings and Packers. And this one goes towards the Packers' way. So they are rolling now with 2 division wins. They have a home game against the Broncos. More on that later. And they are undefeated after 2 weeks. Minnesota side, Kirk Cousins had to throw the ball because they were down. And it didn't go well. 14 for 32, 230 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. Okay, Adam Thielen, 5 for 75. Chad Beebe, 1 for 61. Nobody started him. Stephon Diggs, you started him. 1 for 49 and a touchdown. And Bloom, I was at the Broncos Stadium. Not necessarily a humble brag based on the way the Broncos are playing, but there was like a Diggs touchdown, and I was like, oh, cool. And then there wasn't, and there's stuff taken away and penalties. And I think on that drive, there was a couple of touchdowns taken away from the Vikings. But anyway, this is all about Dalvin Cook, 20 for 154 and a rushing touchdown, 3 for 37 as a receiver, looking magnifique for the Vikings. Too bad no one else really is.
Yeah, Vikings offense, not exactly imposing outside of Dalvin Cook. Oh, if you took Dalvin Cook, yeah. This is one of those picks. You do your victory lap. I mean, you were right. We're getting the best case scenario. And if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. He's helping you win fantasy games right now and will for the foreseeable future. But Thielen, Diggs, it seems like that very low set floor ceiling range from last year, the last 3 weeks. Yeah, I mean, 2 weeks in, that's what we've gotten. I mean, they had a good game script in this one. They fell behind 21-0, which makes us pause and say, hey, is the Green Bay defense for real? The Smiths, Zadarius, and Preston getting interception today, like seeing that from an edge rusher that far downfield. So they were able to get the early lead, and the defense made it hold up, partially because, again, outside of Dalvin Cook, this isn't that dangerous. Stephon Diggs had a nice touchdown, so it bailed you out, but that's not the kind of volume, the kind of baseline production you're looking for here. Kyle Rudolph is on milk cartons. We'll see more Irv Smith, but Minnesota felt great after 1 week. Now, looking up at the top of their division, and Oakland coming next week.
Yeah, and it's always curious with Kirk Cousins. Like, this is your offense. Like, this is Mike Shanahan loves you in this offense, and you're not good Yeah, anyway, Aaron Rodgers is good. 22 of 34, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs, only sacked twice this week, 5 times last week. And it helps when you can run the ball. Thank you, Aaron Jones, 23 for 116 and a rushing touchdown. Jamal Williams actually had rushing yards, 9 for 28 this week, and also a receiving touchdown, 3 for 13. Geronimo Allison, 4 for 25 and a receiving touchdown. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, big catch last week. This week, 3 for 19. Devontae Adams, 7 for 106, no receiving touchdowns yet. Aaron Jones, 4 for 34 as receiver. Don't know if I mentioned that. Jimmy Graham, touchdown last week, 2 targets this week, no catches. So there you go. This is Green Bay, and they're winning, not necessarily pretty and not necessarily high flying, 209 yards passing, 144 on the ground, though. And, well, they're happy to be 2-0.
Oh, thrilled. I mean, you're 2-0 in the division against every team in this division should feel like they can win the division, but you beat Chicago on the road and Minnesota. You're feeling good. Aaron Rodgers made you feel good as a fantasy play for the first half. Second half, not as much. It was Minnesota's defense, let's remember. So an acceptable outcome for him, acceptable for Devontae Adams, who did better than that poor, statistically, Monday night showing. It was Valdez-Scantling fading in the background a little more Geronimo Allison, but still not in a prolific way. Jimmy Graham disappears. Aaron Jones. So again, you're thinking, is Aaron Jones in this running game not going to be as good as we hoped, or is it Chicago? We saw Minnesota do a great job against Atlanta on the ground last week, but Aaron Jones looking good. Jamal Williams looking good. Not still a backup level running back, but producing right out of the gate in this one in the passing game. So this isn't a prolific offense. It isn't like Mike McCarthy, next coach of the Steelers, ceased. That's what Eric Stoner says. It's not like we're seeing, wow, this offense is really spreading its wings, but the defense with this offense, and hey, Aaron Rodgers can be safe with the ball. We know that. And they get Denver next week. See, that one's going to be interesting.
Quite. And maybe not a lot of fun if you're a Broncos fan. Moving on, not a lot of fun if you're a Titans fan because it looked like your stadium was on fire. What was that? Like a speaker, right, Bloom?
Right. Ritual sacrifice.
Exactly. It's the smoke rising and, well, nothing from the ashes except an L. 19-17, the Colts win. Jacoby Brissett, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT, only 146 yards passing, but the 3 TDs go like this: 4 for 43 and a touch for Hilton, 3 for 25 and a touch for Eric Ebron. Paris Campbell, 1 for 12 and a touchdown there as well. Jack Doyle, 2 for 21. Not much else from anyone else as a receiver. And 5 for 82 from Jordan Wilkins. Always that name to remember because Marlon Mack, 20 carries, 51 yards. Couple of catches for 12 yards there as well. So the Colts, again, get the win. Important divisional win. Not pretty, but they get it done.
No, see, Denver might be able to contend for the AFC South title this year.
Yeah.
That's what I learned today. But look, I mean, Indy wins, so we can run some things down. Jacoby Brissett was solid. I mean, even for fantasy, he was solid, safe with the ball. Marlon Mack was held in check, although if we're on both sides, Mack and Henry, as long as the team is competitive and giving them these kinds of opportunities, Mack is going to have games more like the one that Henry had today. So you're not really discouraged by this. It still was a good game script and a good outcome in terms of opportunity, even though the touchdowns weren't there. And, instead the touchdowns go to Hilton and Campbell and Ebron. One or two of those could just as easily go to Mack next week. Ebron does get a touchdown. Hey, in this already, some teams are in the vast, desolate desert of tight end production, so you'll take that touchdown. Otherwise, it's just spread around. Jacoby Brissett's going to be safe with the ball, short passing, so you're going to see T.Y. Hilton, in that more 10 to 12 yards per catch range, or in some games much less, but converting that one for the touchdown saves you. Is Indy any good? I mean, is their running game good? They ran all over Chargers, not so much Tennessee. Just good enough to maybe win the AFC South, and they've got Atlanta coming and sees a lot of teams in week 2. We were saying, are they any good? Is Atlanta any good? I mean, I don't know yet.
Yeah, we're still getting data points, but just mysteries abound in the NFL. Marcus Mariota, speaking of mystery, 154, 1 touchdown, no INT. We think we kind of know him. David Kissenberry gets the receiving touchdown, and nobody started him. Even members of his family won't have him on their fantasy team. Delaney Walker, 4 for 39. Corey Davis, 3 for 38. I still love A.J. Brown. Love the way he looks. Yeah. 3 for 25 in this contest. Derrick Henry, 15 for 81 and a rushing touchdown, and then 2 for 12 as a receiver, so he paid off a little bit. But this is a team that's from week to week kind of difficult to figure out.
Yeah, see, it's that Titans offense. I mean, we could go back and watch last week. Sure, you got those short Delaney Walker touchdowns. You got a lot of scores off of Baker Mayfield interceptions. You got that Derrick Henry play, which is kind of a busted defense play. Like everybody looked like they took that play off, like the Cooper Cup play today. But it's the Titans offense is still going to be bleh, for fantasy. With Marcus Mariota, limited ceiling, low floor. Corey Davis made a few plays. Like you said, A.J. Brown. Delaney Walker's going to lead them in targets and receptions as long as he's healthy. So you still play him like that desolation at tight end. You get the short touchdown from Derrick Henry. You get one drive where Derrick Henry's starting to really wear down Indianapolis. But again, it was Jordan Wilkins coming through in the end. Cairo Santos let down Tennessee. We had some bad kicking situations around here. And Cecil, we get Tennessee and Jacksonville on Thursday. So, yeah, that's going to be fun.
Well, good thing we're doing a show.
And then cursing.
Yes.
To entertain ourselves.
Let's do that instead. Now, next game up, New England and Miami. And Bloom, I think we're living in an era of trolls. Mm-hmm. And I'll leave that one alone. But it's 43-0. And I think Belichick was just trolling everybody, especially early.
Yeah.
Like I can see Belichick over there. Josh, get him AB.
Yeah.
Next play. Josh.
Call again.
Go him AB.
Call again.
And then even like Rex Burkhead with a little end around, whatever. Then it's like, Rex, why didn't you throw to AB?
Yeah.
Like he was just seriously trolling everybody with AB.
All right.
And Antonio Brown goes 4 for 56 and a receiving touchdown. And it's Patriots debut. And they dropped 43-0. I thought it would be 35 and he'd call off the dogs on Brian Flores. Well, it was 43. 264, 2 touchdowns for Tom Brady. And like I said, Julian Edelman, 4 for 51. Rex Burkhead, 2 for 47 as a receiver, 5 for 21 as a runner. Sony Michel, 21 carries, 85 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Brady also himself got a rushing touchdown to benefit that day. You got Josh Gordon in. You got 2 for 19. That's not a lot. James White gets a receiving touchdown as 2. I forgot to mention that. Matt Lacoste, 2 for 33. Just bring Gronk back later. And the Patriots just roll. It's just so easy. They're just who wants to score? Okay, you get a touchdown. You get a touchdown. Brady gets a touchdown. Antonio Brown, let's troll everybody.
Yeah, it's odd and rare sees that a 43-0 game's a letdown in fantasy. It felt kind of like a letdown. I mean, Brady was good. Brady had the 1-yard touchdown. Sony Michel was good enough. Okay. And with this team and this schedule coming up, a 2 or 3 touchdown game is coming for Michel. So keep him in. Burkhead not used as much. White got a garbage time touchdown to bail you out here. And then in the passing game, what did seem like absolutely an emphasis on Brown early. He should have had 2 touchdowns or at least had opportunity to have 2 touchdowns. Bigger game here. So Edelman takes a step back. And again, I'm thinking of my man, Eric Stoner, when he says, Josh Gordon's not Randy Moss in this offense. He's Dante Stallworth. I mean, he's not as explosive. He's not necessarily that vertical threat. We're not seeing that yet. And why does, they don't need to press the issue with this offense. So yeah, this is what we have, Cecil. Really for the first time I can remember, Cecil. It's like, I want to pick because so many great draft prospects come from these teams, Colorado School of Mines or something. Like every week there's 31 NFL teams and Colorado School of Mines. And one team gets that team, and it's going to be an odd curveball for fantasy, but it's the most unentertaining football on every Sunday.
There we have it. And the Dolphins side, not a lot here. Josh Rosen came in, threw a pick. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 3 picks.
Yeah.
Kenyon Drake's doing nothing. Bright spot, Preston Williams, Colorado State, not School of Mines. School of Mines, not a bad program, but not Colorado State, Preston Williams. Another good game, 4 for 63 in this one. Other than that, garbage.
Yeah. And by the way, I didn't mention Sony Michel not involved in the passing game. Part of the reason it was a letdown, even though 43 points, scored 2 of them on interceptions, easy interception return touchdowns, like interception return touchdowns where you didn't even have to watch them all the way to the end zone. By the time they were at the 30, 40 yard line, you're like, oh, that's a touchdown. So just a terrible showing. Don't count on any part of Miami's offense. I don't care. Even if you accidentally get lucky and get garbage time touchdown, it's not worth it. We'll probably see more Rosen going forward. Kenyon Drake might get traded. That's something. Minkah Fitzpatrick. You see they put the Steelers as the favorite to trade for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Like the Steelers would or now should do anything that inspired to help their team. But this is what Miami is doing, what they think will help their team. We'll see. We'll see what happens when an NFL franchise endures true tanking like we've never seen.
Watch out for the Cowboys.
Jerry.
Just throwing it out there. When you talk about
like
Minkah, you talk about Minkah, just keep an eye on that.
I like that.
Let's move on, and it's Daniel Jones Watch 2019 because Eli Manning can't play football. 28-14, the final score. The Bills get the win, and we're seeing Josh Allen make some progress. It's fun to me to watch Josh Allen, not because he's big and athletic, he's got a big arm, and Josh is tall or all that kind of stuff. It's that you see the learning, right? It's almost like you can see the puzzle pieces coming together for him. What's that scene from Hangover where it's all the numbers and the data? You can see it coming together. And he's not a finished product. And 19-30 today, 253, 1 touchdown, no INTs, 7 for 21, 1 rushing touchdown. But you see the development as a passer. Again, far from finished, but I like it. I like it a lot. Cole Beasley, 4 for 83. Smoke. John Brown, 7 for 72. Isaiah McKenzie with a shovel pass, 2 for 40 and a touchdown. That shovel pass gets you the more Josh Allen points. Frank Gore leading the way on the ground, 19 for 68 and a touch. Devin Singletary's only going to get like a few touches, and he's still going to score. 6 for 57 and a touch in this one. So here you go. Bills winning. Bills undefeated.
Yeah, and 2-0 with 2 road wins. And see, let's all become Bills fans. Steelers fans, follow me. Let's go up I-79.
Over here.
Let's drive up I-79. You make a right turn on get on the New York State Thruway. Let's become Bills fans. Let's all join our cousins up on Lake Erie. Wow. Josh Allen, as you said, Cease, you see it calming down for him. Much better game. Took care of the ball better. Now, is it the Giants defense? Maybe it's the Giants defense. That means Tampa should get better. Jameis Winston should get better next week. And both of the South divisions are just like, someone's got to win one of these divisions. So we see John Brown, volume is there, not a big play necessarily. Cole Beasley, big play is there, actually. But the offense, the passing offense is going to run through those two. Not as much Devin Singletary, and he comes out with a hamstring. So we got to watch that, although hopefully it's something minor. Dr. Gene will defer to him, but I'm assuming he's going to miss time with this. And if he doesn't, that might not be a good thing. Could re-injure that. So Frank Gore becomes more interesting. Volume, again, but volume and a touchdown. And this is a winning team, Cease. They're 2-0, and they get Cincinnati next week. So 3-0, here we go. Oh, but I bloomed them.
Don't do it. Don't do it. We like Buffalo.
Yeah, we do.
I'm not the largest Daniel Jones fan, but got to be better than what Eli's doing. This game he started like 1 for 10 or something like that. He finishes 26 of 45, 250, 1 up, 2 down, 1 TD, 2 INTs. Saquon Barkley, you're starting him every week, 18 for 107, rushing touchdown. Saquon also 3 for 28 as a receiver. Benny Fowler, you're not starting, 5 for 51. You might be starting Evan Ingram, 6 for 48. TJ Jones gets the receiving touchdown. Nobody's starting him. This is Saquon and the not so fun bunch.
No, not at all. And it's just a question of when we're going to see Daniel Jones. I mean, that's the only thing interesting about this team now, and watching Saquon Barkley and seeing his stats ring up for your fantasy team or against your fantasy team. Play some DFS, get him some DFS lineups. Look, and you're going to see they're going to say, well, look at who he had at receiver. And he did have Evan Ingram, who wasn't doing much in this game for a while, bailed you out a little bit. But that's why you play him, because of the targets. But they're going to keep making excuses for him, Cease. And I wonder, are we headed for a year or 2 or 3 of that with Roethlisberger and our Steelers, where we're just going to see how this team cannot move forward with this player, and yet they keep him in? That's where you're at if you're a Giants fan.
Steelers and Seahawks, final game in part 1 of the week 2 recap here on the Audible, 28-26, the final score. Steelers are 0-2, Seahawks are 2-0, and Russell Wilson 3-0 as far as yards, and then 3-0 as far as touchdowns and INTs today. Tyler Lockett, more involved, 12 targets, good, very good, 10 for 79. DK Metcalf, 7 targets, 3 catches, 61 yards, 1 receiving touchdown. Will Dissly going nuts, 5 for 50 and 2 receiving touchdowns there. Not much else from anyone else. Chris Carson, 15 for 60 on the ground, 3 for 27 as receiver. Rashad Penny, 10 for 62 and 1 rushing touchdown. So they do it with a lot of Dissly, a lot of Metcalf, a lot of Lockett, and a win.
Yeah. Winter's coming, Steelers fans. It's not going to be good. Seattle wins kind of predictably, right? I mean, isn't this what you pictured? Like breakdowns in the secondary, Russell Wilson making plays. You maybe pictured after Seattle's offensive line did not look good against Cincinnati, the walls crumbling around him. It was like that early, but it didn't really have any factor in the outcome of the game when it came down to it. Chris Carson fumbled twice. Almost like the Steelers got a defensive touchdown out of one of them. And still Carson finished out the game, but it was Rashad Penny had a long run for a touchdown. It's interesting. A little bit of teetering, not necessarily as stable as it was coming into this week. Wilson's touchdowns, DK Metcalf one-on-one. Will Dissly in the desolate tight end production landscape. He comes on his burrow, he's bearing gifts. He's got water for our fantasy team. So Will Dissly beating Devin Bush one-on-one, elevating. And it's the ball placement by Russell Wilson. As you said, Lockett racking up those catches. And Seattle's feeling good. You're 2-0, again, 2-0, no matter how you get there, you're feeling good, and you're facing teams not feeling good right now. So he's staying out on the West Coast, staying away from my new hometown, Big Easy, the Saints.
11% chance of making the playoffs if you start 0-2. Since
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
realignment in 2002, you have an 11% chance. Good luck. Mason Rudolph comes in for an injured Ben Roethlisberger. I thought when Rudolph was playing well, Ben would be like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Shake it off, baby. Shake it off. I'm fine.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Mason Rudolph, 112, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. Roethlisberger, 75 yards before getting injured. James Conner banged up 33 yards and a rushing touchdown before his exit. Juju Smith-Schuster, 5 for 84. Vance McDonald, 2 receiving touchdowns, 7 for 38 and 2 receiving touchdowns. So hooking up nicely with Mason Rudolph. Thought there'd be more James Washington when Mason comes in because, well, they were college teammates. So not a lot there. Injuries concern, and the Steelers are winless.
Oh man. Well, Cease. Can we say we saw it coming? This is not going to be a fun voyage this season with the Steelers. I will say this: Mason Rudolph gets in. Cease. It has the semblance of an offense that someone has coordinated, and not a quarterback just kind of playing his style of football. Ben Roethlisberger's been an offensive coordinator since Todd Haley left, basically, and maybe let's let Randy Fichtner try to build an offense. Let's let Mason Rudolph show us what he has. Not Josh Dobbs anymore. He's with the Jags. That trade seems a little unwise in hindsight. If this season opens up as like, hey, let's see what we have at the quarterback position going forward. But Rudolph at least can support a pulse for Juju Smith-Schuster, and more than a pulse for Vance McDonald. He's the one. Not James Washington's like in the red zone. The patience by Mason Rudolph, one of the plays I think that showed what he can offer. But James Conner leaves with a knee injury, so we'll talk about the value of Jalen Samuels. But what's the value of Steelers running back worth now? And Cease, whatever, right? That's the theme this year as Steelers fans. Thanks, Ben, for that. Whatever. Dante Moncrief, man, it's not his drops. It's not, but he's not going to sit because of his play. Put him out there. Ball hits him in the hands. Interception. That, whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around. Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. On YouTube, you're going to continue to see us talk. On iTunes, that's the wrap for part 1. And part 2 is next. All right, keep rolling in 3, 2, 1. Next game up and part 2 of the week 2 recap here on the Audible. Cecil Lammey and Sigmund Bloom. Dallas and Washington pay Dak Prescott. Pay because, wow, Dak Prescott. Okay, good. 269 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT for Dak. And Devin Smith. Yes, that Devin Smith, who you're like, wait a second. I thought he was out of the league. But Devin Smith, Mr. Speedster, a second-round pick for the Jets, 2015. Bounced around a little bit, super fast, always hurt, even in college. Hell blew him even in high school. So if you want to talk about Haley's Comet, it's interesting that it's 74 receiving yards. I think Haley's Comet is every 72 years?
Something like that.
Either way, yeah. 3 for 74 and a touch. Can't trust it if I'm going to talk about some public enemy. 4 for 44 and a touch for Amari Cooper. Jason Witten, 4 for 25 and a touch. You can buy some nice hair products. Randall Cobb, 5 for 24. Michael Gallup, 6 for 68. Zeke, 23 for 111 and a rushing touchdown, making it look so easy. Couple catches, 9 yards as well. And the Cowboys, they were rolling.
Yeah, they were. See, you think of some of these games like a fight, like a boxing match. And Washington now 2 weeks in a row against their divisional opponents comes out, lands a few punches, like, oh, that was a good one. You got me. You really got me. But the superior opponent eventually lands the knockout blow and then some in this one. Dallas, Dak Prescott, this offense. I mean, at quarterback this year, it's basically, did you draft Patrick? Did you draft Lamar? Did you draft Dak? One of those three is yes. You're feeling great. You're feeling really great right now. Dallas needs to get, like you said, get him locked up. You're feeling great anytime you play Washington's defense, by the way. Chicago next week, so maybe not. Maybe that's not the Mitchell Trubisky get right game, but just like the game Trubisky had against Tampa last year, maybe it is. Zeke, not a big part of the passing game, and their cup runneth over with passing game options that are all playing well and still coming through. Maybe a little bit of a letdown there compared to what we saw last year. You mentioned Devin Smith, Ohio State receivers, another one on the other side. Terry McLaurin. So the Ohio State receivers taking over the NFL. Gallup produces, Cooper produces, not ceiling games, but you're fine with that. Witten even gets a touchdown. Even Cobb wasn't a total letdown. So, the spoon, the ladle of offensive production from this offense every week is going to fill up a lot of cups. Oh, next week, it's going to be like one of those kiddie pools and Miami. Yeah.
Nah. Case Keenum gets to write another book, maybe. Another chapter, right? 221, buy my book. 2 touchdowns, like the video professor. That's a deep cut right there. 2 touchdowns, no INTs for Case Keenum. Terry McLaurin, the McLaren, 5 for 62 and 1 receiving touchdown. Paul Richardson, P-Rich, gets the other receiving touchdown there as well. Chris Thompson, 5 catches, 48 yards. Couple carries, 3 yards. Adrian Peterson leading the way. Darius Geis, of course, banged up. Peterson comes in, 10 for 25, but a rushing touchdown. So if you started him, he rewarded you with that at least. I would like to reward myself with some English speaking.
Yeah.
So Bloom, take it over.
Yeah, some cheek exercises. Case Keenum. It's just, when are we going to see Dwayne Haskins? I mean, again, Terry McLaurin's missed deep, so if you're enjoying what you're getting from McLaurin, there's more there even from better quarterbacking. You started Chris Thompson or Adrian Peterson today. This is what you can hope for, aspire for, like a 10-point game. From both of these guys. You got the touchdown early from Peterson, and you got some receptions early from Thompson, but these guys aren't going to be pluses in your fantasy lineup. They might be able to hold the line for you. Fern Davis got a little banged up in this one, but he's okay in PPR leagues for tight end. Trey Quinn, he's not taking off as a target. But again, Keenum's keeping it a game offense and a semi-productive offense for fantasy football, but Chicago is coming next week. So maybe we might want to bench everybody from Washington.
Oof. Cardinals, Ravens. You're not benching these guys. You're playing them. 23-17, the final score. But let's talk about the sizzle. That was with Kyler Murray. 349 passing yards. No touchdowns, but no INTs. Sacked 3 times. And every time you get sacked, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like he's a small man. David Johnson banged up, but he gets a rushing touchdown. 14 rushing yards before his time of the day is over. 6 for 114 for Christian Kirk, 5 for 104 for Larry Fitzgerald. I love Keyshawn Johnson. He had 1 catch for 31 yards, but still, like, nothing else from anybody else here. But Kyler was figuring some things out against a tougher defense. Defense that's banged up, but still a tougher opponent.
Moving the ball. Really, this felt like a game that could have been more fun in the story of the evolution of the air raid and the Cardinals if Cliff Kingsbury wasn't selling for so many field goals. So I don't understand that. But they were moving the ball, and they looked more able, more comfortable than they did, and created more things just with the byproduct, just like the Chip Kelly early years, where it's just a style play. You saw the defense get worn down late again. You saw some busted coverages again, and Larry Fitzgerald making a big play. So Kyler Murray, not a great fantasy quarterback, but certainly you weren't disappointed with what he did, especially if you get yardage bonuses, and better days are to come. Remember, the schedule is going to get easier, and running's not so much there. And there's a note during the game, he doesn't really want to take a lot of hits this year, which just makes sense. And so that might make them less eager to run him, except a few key game situations where you'll see that quickness just get some 2, 3, 4 yards to get a first down when they need it. David Johnson got dinged in this one, same wrist that basically cost him a season. And he said he's okay, and he went back in the game, but he didn't do much in this one. He did get a touchdown to bail you out. So we'll see. We'll see his practice reports. Just feeling almost the opposite you did coming out of last week, where wow, he's going to be used great in this more open offense. Now Chase Edmonds, we'll be talking about him on the waiver wire show.
Yes,
Christian Kirk. He looks fantastic. Larry Fitzgerald's going to keep producing. Even now, Damiere Byrd is emerging as the number 3. So this team is, again, very fun to watch, facing a team, at least the quarterback position, hasn't been very fun to watch. Carolina next week.
Let me tell you about Lamar Jackson. 272 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no INTs, 120 yards rushing.
Yeah.
Mark Ingram, stiff arms for everybody. 13 for 47 for Ingram there as a runner, 2 for 30 as a receiver. The Mandrew. Love that guy. I bet Baker misses him. Mark Andrews, 8 for 112 and 1 receiving touchdown. Hollywood, 8 for 86 in this contest. Even Hayden Hurst got the receiving touchdown. He has very nice hair. Other than that, we're talking about the Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown, Mandrew show with a dash of Mark Ingram, and it, leads to a victory.
Yeah, so one thing another we've established, target that Arizona defense. Again, Carolina, Cam Newton, if he looks bad against that defense next week, got problems. Again, Baltimore hasn't faced a great defense or even a mediocre defense yet. Like at Kansas City next week, so I don't know how much we'll know about them except that, wow, this Lamar Jackson-led offense can take a lot from defenses that are inferior. Mark Andrews, just growing up before our very eyes, he's putting up, this is a Rob Gronkowski kind of pace of scoring. Even Gronk wasn't necessarily on this near 2,000-yard pace, but you love what you're getting. You're going to love what you're getting next week. Marquis Brown, obviously the number one receiver, obviously the number one target. So Mark Ingram didn't do as much. Your secondary options didn't do as much. But if you can give us elite fantasy quarterback, elite fantasy tight end, and a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 1 upside, going to Kansas City next week, that's a marquee matchup. And see Baltimore, Kansas City, again, the Death Star. These are two teams that can maybe blow up the Death Star. So I hope that whatever happens, nobody important gets hurt, and they make each other better, whoever wins, because the plot of the season, the same as many seasons lately, is clear.
Well, and I hope it's Kansas City because I still hate Baltimore. As a Steelers fan, we have to.
I understand. I
can't. Like Flacco gives me the eye, right? Tonight after the game, it's like Flacco's giving me the eye. He knows. Yeah. He knows the black and yellow. Anyway. Oh, God. They're so terrible. Jags and Texans can't figure out Houston, but they win 13-12. It's just like Bill O'Brien, right? To stumble to something like he did with Deshaun Watson because he never wanted him. Rick Smith, I will always give you credit, brother. Anyway, Gardner Minshew has shown in 2 games, basically 2 full games, it's not too big for him. The stage isn't too big. Sacked 4 times, hasn't thrown a pick. 213, 1 receiving touchdown, goes DJ Chark. That connection stays, right? 7 for 55. But we really have to, and the connection with Chris Conley, who looked like his favorite target last week, 4 for 73 this week. I mean, it's pretty cool what Gardner Minshew is doing. Certainly comfortable in his own skin, and just kind of his personality, his look. That's cool, man. Right? Get down how you get down. I don't care if Cam Newton dresses like whatever. That's him. He's comfortable with that. Gardner Minshew looks like a 70s porn star. I don't care. That's his deal, right? Give me a mustache and a Trans Am with T-tops. Also had 56 yards rushing, more than Leonard Fournette, who had 47 yards rushing. Also 40 yards receiving for Fournette, very important, aiding his fantasy day. So they don't win, but man, defensively they put up a hell of a fight. And Gardner Minshew's not a slappy. He's been a good starter for this team with Nick Foles down.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew, he's made himself, $20 or $30 million in these games. I mean, he's shown he can at least be a solid NFL backup. Those guys get paid, $3 million, $4 million? Who knows what it's going to be as the pay scale goes. He's probably showed for at least 5 to 10 years that he's one of the best 64 quarterbacks on the planet. So you love it. And I think that he's a leader too, or at least he's got the trust of his team. You can see that. I mean, they're just going out. And I think maybe this is a Nick Foles kind of thing too, Cease, where, you're the backup, you're coming in, your team is kind of in the lurch, and you just conduct yourself in such a way. It's like, we're football players. We're going to go out and play football. We're not going to worry about this. And Minshew gives off that vibe. So it's been fun to watch, gaining a lot of fans. Leonard Fournette, not necessarily gaining fans, getting a lot of touches. So not a disappointment for fantasy. And they called his number on the 2-point conversion, and he tried to stumble into the end zone and was held up. I think Justin Reed was there, a big part of that play. So he wasn't able to get that in the whole game. You like that Jacksonville at least called to go for 2 and go for the win. Of course, you saw that today. You saw that one of the strangest sequences. We'll get to that. But you saw with Minshew throwing the ball well, DJ Chark looks good. Chris Conley looks good. Westbrook, he had one pass that they called OPI on, that, giving him something like a 30-yard pass. But you like the competitiveness for Minshew. And then you also see, though, Doug Marrone confronting Jalen Ramsey on the sidelines. So you don't necessarily love that. I know this, Cease, based on today, because we saw these two games of AFC South teams. In any AFC South game, any team can beat any other team. Doesn't matter. It's just not going to be a good game if you have any of the fantasy players in it.
Like Deshaun Watson, who had 159-yard passing and 1 rushing touchdown. Thank God for that. Carlos Hyde with 20 for 90 in this one. So, okay, Duke Johnson Jr. is doing nothing then. Will Fuller, 4 for 40. DeAndre Hopkins, 5 for 40. Kenny Stills, 2 for 38. So, again, some great assets, some great names. Stills, what the heck, flex, whatever. D-Hop's awesome. Love Nuke. But just not a lot there today.
No. The Jacksonville defense finds their swagger after Kansas City. And I mean, Kansas City, again, we're going, we don't need Rhodes offense. So wins Watson after looking so good against New Orleans, but a letdown. The rushing touchdown saves something, but does it give you pause against the Chargers next week? Maybe. It depends on the other quarterback. I mean, you're certainly playing Dak and Lamar over him at this point. I got some Lamar Watson questions today that I wish I'd answered differently. Carlos Hyde. And I wish I could remember who it was on Twitter that said, whenever O'Brien got Hyde, I said, well, they gave up a fourth, maybe third round pick for Duke and Rankin, who they were going to cut for Hyde. So Bill O'Brien made those decisions as the acting GM, basically. He considers one of these guys clearly superior to the other. But no, and Hyde's running the ball well, and that saves Deshaun Watson punishment. So in some ways, this is an optimal outcome to inch out this win because of its play on defense. You're going to stick with Nuke. Otherwise, between QT and Duke, you thought maybe there's going to be somebody to make something out of the slot role, the short, high percentage throws. That's not happening. Fuller is not converting enough deep. Stills is not converting enough deep. One receiver was getting all these deep targets. You'd be excited to start them, but not so much, especially on a day like this. But Houston doesn't care. They won, and they're facing a team like the Chargers. Somebody has to win this game, although we did have a tie so far this year.
Chiefs Raiders up next. It was cute. 10-0 in the first quarter, Raiders. And they never scored again. And Kansas City scored 28 points in the second quarter, and then they never scored again, but it was enough. Patty Ice, 443, 4 touchdowns, no INTs. And his favorite target when he was a rookie, not as a first-year starter last year, but as a rookie, his favorite guy in training camp, and even the second year in training camp of the preseason, was Demarcus Robinson. Lo and behold, Tyreek Hill injury, you get more Demarcus Robinson, 6 for 172 and 2 touchdowns. Magnifique. McCole Hardman, 4 for 61 and a touchdown. Travis Kelce, 7 for 107 and a touchdown. He didn't know, look it. He threw it right in there. Sammy Watkins, though, 6 for 49. So your PPR league, you're going to take that. That's 10 points. You're going to take that. Damian Williams, 9 for 8 on the ground. 3 for 48 as a receiver. Enough. LaShawn McCoy leading the way with 11 carries, 23 yards. So, again, 28-point second quarter. No points in the second half for either one of these teams. And Chiefs just make it look easy for a little bit and take the foot off the gas.
Yeah, they're playing a different game, basically. I mean, with what Mahomes can do, with the mental space he's in, with the talent he has, with the way they space out the field, even without Tyreek Hill, I mean, this is it. I mean, again, Kansas City is going to be one of the keys to your fantasy league. Like right now, if you took Patrick Mahomes in the first round, that was great. That was a good pick. That was a good pick. And I defy anybody to tell me that was. I mean, yes, Dak Prescott was a good pick, and Lamar Jackson was a good pick too. Patrick Mahomes is a first-round commodity in any kind of scoring. If you took Patrick Mahomes in the first round and went against the fantasy industry, the experts saying quarterback's too deep, you made the right decision. You made one of the right decisions. It's just easy. It's easy for Demarcus Robinson. And just the value of Mahomes' targets is so much more because he gives these guys chances to make plays downfield, and they make them more often than not. McCole Hardman had one that was called back, or he would have had a 100-yard, 2-touchdown day. Travis Kelce looks easy. He's running free, 100-yard day and a touchdown. And look, if the downside for Watkins is a 10 or 11-point day, even a 5-point day on PPR, you can absorb that if 30, 40-point days are on the horizon. Now, Damian Williams hurt in this one in the knee, so we'll watch that. LeSean McCoy didn't do that much in the running game either. Oakland's an exploitable defense. I think no matter what Denver didn't do against them, but we'll see. Kansas City's going to make everyone look exploitable. Darwin Thompson, Darrell Williams, these guys become more interesting. The production's going to be there from this offense. Kansas City is really fun to watch.
They are. Oakland, not as much, but we're getting some data points, mainly on Darren Waller. Like when he goes 7 for 7 against Denver, you're like, oh, it's the Broncos. They can't cover tight ends. But he goes 6 for 63 against the Chiefs. Like, hey, I like it. Nice little asset here. Tyrell Williams, 5 for 46 and a receiving touchdown to get part to their 10 points. Derek Carr, 198, 1 TD, 2 INTs. Josh Jacobs, 12 for 99. He good. He's really good. And, well, that was about it for anyone that you would care to start in your fantasy league.
Yeah, underwhelming, By the way, Baltimore and Kansas City next week. Again, circle that one. Derek Carr comes up small. Tyrell Williams get a touchdown. Waller gets enough. So they're a solid contact, but not that kind of performance you were looking for against Kansas City after what Jacksonville did, what Gardner Minshew did. And it makes you wonder, is it just that Denver's defense is that bad? But then we say, well, if it's Denver's defense is not that good, then what does that mean about Mitch Trubisky? And then our heads hurt. But believe me, Bears fans, it's better than being a Steelers fan today. Is it better than being a Minnesota fan? I don't know. But that's who Oakland gets next. So again, Cecil, we look at some of these matchups from week 3, looking ahead. Question marks, perplexed, rumpled brows.
Yeah. I know it's a recap show and it's fantasy football related, but 16-14, the Bears over the Broncos. And here's the end of the game. The end of the game, the Broncos get a score to potentially tie it up and go to overtime at 13 apiece. So they're going to go for 2, and then there's a penalty. So we're not going to go for 2 now. We're going to kick with Brandon McManus, who misses the extra point. But there was a penalty. So they're okay. We're going to go for 2 again. And then they get it with 31 seconds remaining. And Chris Harris Jr., who played really good on Allen Robinson most all the day, allows 1 in the middle. I blame this one on Yadam. Yadam didn't tackle somebody on the side. I was on the sideline, so I couldn't tell. But Yadam didn't keep someone in bounds, went out of bounds, saved him a timeout. Anyway, they march down the field. They get a 53-yarder. They win the game 16-14. The final score, Bradley Chubb's throwing his helmet like 50 yards. Emmanuel Sanders slamming his helmet in the tunnel. People are pissed. Garrett Bowles, my arms and legs to him. Like, so much to get to. But on the Bears side, it was interesting and very interesting to note, especially because when we talk about it on the show, when I talked to Matt Nagy, and I was like, what does David Montgomery have to do to get a larger role? Now, he had 18 for 62 and a rushing touchdown, 1 for 6 as a receiver. And I know that's 3.4 a carry, but Montgomery didn't look bad, in what they did with him. Cordero Patterson, 2 for 50 in this one, big 46-yarder there. So as running the ball, they had 153 yards as a team, plus that rushing touchdown. Allen Robinson bottled up mostly, 4 for 41. Ben Bronecker, 2 for 24. Adam Shaheen, 3 for 24. And Trey Burton did play, 2 for 5. So your tight ends combined get 7 catches, but that's combined. Anthony Miller's doing nothing. There's a shut him down if I ever saw one. But it was good that they said, Mitchell Trubisky, don't throw 45 times, throw 27 times, by the way, for 120 yards passing, and generally missing wide open receivers. Like, the book on Trubisky is there. Give him the silver platter of the wide open short stuff, and he's going to take it all day. He's going to not even make field reads, and he's going to look to run after 1 read. Basically, if you run the ball, you play great defense, you can win games like this if you're the Bears.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that the takeaway sees here, is that neither of these teams have a credible offense to threaten to do anything. No. I mean, that's really the big takeaway here. And, for fantasy, again, Chicago's going to Washington next week. So I don't want to say your Bears are going to continue to underwhelm, but Mitchell Trubisky's underwhelming. I mean, I can't believe he was actually kind of a hot fantasy commodity for a while last year. Matt Nagy, maybe not the brilliant genius we thought he was, or it's Ryan Pace, just the whole brain trust taking Trubisky. Dave Montgomery got the work, got the touchdown. You can still see it's a low ceiling for him in this. They're not necessarily using him like a true feature back. You're still going to see some Tariq Cohen and Mike Davis in any event to keep Montgomery elevating to the true difference maker. He doesn't have that Saquon Barkley kind of talent to do that without a heavy workload. Chris Harris did a great job on Robinson. Again, got to bail out at the end. That great job stepping up, and a game at the end that both teams just kept handing back and forth, like that New Orleans Houston game. Burton was back. He didn't do anything again. Everybody else, Miller, whatever. I mean, sure, Anthony Miller might have 2 touchdowns against Washington next week. I'm not going to try to time that game. Anthony Miller's still a decent player, but this offense is not going to create overachievers. I'm sorry you had to cover this game, Cease.
Yeah, well, I get to do the morning show tomorrow with Mark Schlereth, who did the game for Fox today. And Stink, I guess, was just like ripping up Garrett Bowles one side and down the other. So it's gonna tomorrow's show, because I won't be awake because I've been on the air since 7:30 this morning. So tomorrow's show on the fan, I'll be like, Stink, Garrett Bowles sucks. Whoop, softball. And then he'll knock it out of the park. Private Pile says, well, Flacco gets benched. No, because Drew Lock's on IR.
Right.
And yeah, this is who they're gonna go with. For better or mainly for worse. Flacco, 292 yards passing, 50 passing attempts. You're just not going to... They led this game for 11 minutes. You're losing the time of possession battle. You're not playing with the lead. You didn't play with the lead at all against the Raiders. You're 0-2. I think Rich Scangarello gets a little too cute with stuff at times. At least he went to Emmanuel Sanders early. That was nice. 11 for 98 and a touchdown for Emmanuel Sanders. Beautiful touchdown, by the way. Royce Freeman, good as a receiver, 5 for 48 as a receiver, good as a runner, 11 for 54 as a runner, leading the way. Phillip Lindsay, lots of energy, 13 for 36 as a runner, 4 for 30 as a receiver. Cortland Sutton, not 100 yards, but 4 for 40. You saw him out there doing a lot of blocking, and he was enjoying that. Noah Fant, 4 for 33 in this one. So this offense is just... They're just toothless. And because of that, Bloom, would you believe that after 2 games, the Broncos have that many sacks?
Yeah.
Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, they have 0 sacks from anyone on their team. They have 2 quarterback hits. And by the way, 1 was a penalty on Bradley Chubb. So there you go.
So the offense is just, again, not really threatening much. A great game if you played Emmanuel Sanders. Keep him in. Again, Flacco and that dependable veteran route runner. There's going to be production, consistent production there. Gary Conley not locking him down. This week, Cortland Sutton, Noah Fant, these guys are going to be secondary targets. You actually saw the running backs. Both Freeman and Lindsay contribute significantly as receivers out of the backfield and doing enough as runners in a close back and forth game to be flex plays, even a decent running back too in PPR leagues. But this is, again, a lightweight offense, an underwhelming team. And Flacco with that volume 6 times, I think now, the stat I saw, 50 attempts or more and not hitting 300 yards. I think we should call it a Flacco. And someone said Bill Barnwell already suggested that 2 years ago. So bravo to Bill, of course, who's one of the best minds in our football writing world.
Yes.
Denver and Green Bay. Cease, enjoy that.
Saints and Rams. Drew Brees banged up. 27-9, the final score. Rams get the win. But Brees is banged up, Bloom. Give us the latest there. Teddy Bridgewater comes in, 165 yards passing. I want to see Teddy Bridgewater play, just not like this. Michael Thomas, 10 for 89 in this one. Traquan Smith, 3 for 49. Jared Cook, 2 for 25. No receiving touchdowns, so nobody did much of anything. Even Kamara, 1 for 15 as a receiver, 13 for 45 as a runner. So Breeze goes down, win goes out of the sails, and hey, Saints on the road, not like Saints at home.
Yeah, and we'll see what's to come. I mean, the Saints, kind of like Steelers fans, black and gold, right? Contemplating their futures at this point in the season with what we're seeing transpire. From fantasy, this is a disaster. Teddy Bridgewater can be competent. I want to see Taysom Hill. I mean, what the heck? I mean, let's see. Let's just see if it looked serious, though. Going to see a hand specialist in L.A. Concern. He couldn't hold a football. He couldn't pick up a football. That doesn't sound good. So Alvin Kamara, disaster. It's just not going to be the same. Michael Thomas might be kind of the same because of volume, but still, Jared Cook, we're talking about dropping him. Latavius Murray, we're going to talk about dropping him. If Breeze goes on IR or Breeze has surgery, that's it. I mean, they're going to Seattle, and again, Seattle's 2-0. They're feeling good. New Orleans can feel good about the fact that somebody has to win the NFC South. By rule, someone from that division is going to go to the playoffs. That's about the only thing I can think of to feel good about for the Saints.
Drew Brees in this current state, and even at the end of last year, reminds me of 2014 halfway point Peyton Manning. 2015 Peyton Manning was pretty bad. But 2014 halfway point Peyton Manning in a game against the Rams, he got beat the hell out of. Orlando Franklin always hates when I bring up this game because Adam Gase said he forgot to run. And Peyton Manning got the hell beat out of him, and he was never the same. He was never the same. End of 2014 was a little bit different, and then 2014 was poor. He was essentially hurt and pulled for Brock Osweiler, comes back in, wins the Super Bowl. Legend. That's PFM, right? Well, Breeze, we'll see. Jared Goff, we'll see. 283, 1 touchdown, no INTs. Brandon Cooks gets the touchdown, 3 for 74 and a touch. Cooper Kupp, 5 for 120. Todd Gurley gets a rushing touchdown at 63 yards on the ground and 3 catches for 4 yards. So the Rams at home make it look easy. They lose their own superstar. Give us the latest on Aaron Donald's injury there, Bloom.
Yeah.
And let's talk about what the Rams did.
Yeah. Saints also, defensive touchdown was wiped off the board. Bad call. I think Traquan Smith's helmet got taken off. No call. He ended up hurt on that play around that time. So the Saints versus the refs story continues. But for the Rams, they're turning the page forward to, a team, I guess, can win ugly. I mean, Jared Goff got that rushing touchdown. Should have been a Cooper Kupp touchdown, but got overturned. The fantasy result was okay. It doesn't look like first half of the year Rams sharp attacking Jared Goff. This offense doesn't look like that. Okay, Gurley got a touchdown, singing songs of love, but I can't get fired up to sing that because we still saw some Malcolm Brown hold on to him. Gurley looked pretty good. Reasonable facsimile of Gurley, but the way they're handling him has to still set off some alarm bells. And that lower ceiling every week, 15 points, 18 points. That's probably his ceiling now. Brandon Cooks does get a touchdown. Kupp had that almost touchdown, so you're feeling okay about him. Woods didn't do as much. And the Saints defense at the end, too. Just you wonder if seeing Breeze get hurt just took away some of their nerve. And again, wanted to see them play Seattle. Tyler Higbee gets hurt. So Gerald Everett emerges in the desert, the landscape of tight end production. An interesting matchup for the Rams, who, hey, you beat Carolina, you beat New Orleans. You should be feeling good. 2-0, you're feeling good. Going to Cleveland. So that one, interesting. The Browns and the old Rams and Cleveland Rams and, all kinds of cross DNA here.
All right, Bloom, there's about 6 minutes left. Just give me a quick
sure.
please, because this will be like a 16-hour day for me.
Yeah.
And I got to get up early. Sorry, this is just what you're getting today.
Yeah.
But super quick, give
Sure.
me some thoughts on Eagles Falcons here as we're recording Sunday night.
Eagles injuries, Goddard, Jeffrey, and you've got also Deshaun Jackson being hurt. So 3 of their top 6 targets out. So you're seeing some volume for Aguilar and a touchdown. You're seeing some volume for Zach Ertz. Even Mac Hollins becomes interesting. Get him out there on the waiver wire show. But the running game stuck in neutral. Miles Sanders, Jordan Howard, doesn't really matter. A lot less. Sproles in this one. Arcega-Whiteside, a little bit of a flop, honestly, getting a lot of work. This is the scenario where he's going to get on the field. Atlanta, Matt Ryan, looking rough at times out there. Calvin Ridley, he's overtaking Julio Jones, I think. I mean, Jones get a touchdown in this one, but Ridley looks fantastic now in year 2. Hooper doing enough to stay afloat. Devontae Freeman doing enough to stay afloat. It's getting dicey. Ito Smith looking okay in this one, but neither of these teams look that good. Cease. I think after week 2, we can say, what is there? Like 7 good teams in the NFL, 8 good teams in the NFL right now. Some of these teams may become good teams as they hit their stride. Some are going to get injured. Some of the good teams might go south. So still, we're struggling on takeoff. See, maybe this is that less used preseason.
Yeah, I just want to blame the preseason. That's a wrap for part 2 of the week 2 recap here on the Audible. Hey, like and subscribe and share the video. It certainly helps grow the channel. That's the way you pay back the channel. And of course, check out footballguys.com. Subscribe to footballguys.com if you're so inclined. At least get our free daily newsletter. Comes to your inbox hot and fresh every single morning. We certainly appreciate the chat room. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, a thumbs up. Ring the bell to subscribe as well. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter at Sigmund Bloom. I'm at Cecil Lammey. The show's at the Audible saying thanks, stay tuned, and as always, stay frosty.